As this incredible love story comes to an end, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love seeing how far our stories travel. If this journey of love, secrets, and second chances touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell. Tomorrow, we have another heartfelt story waiting for you, one that you won't want to miss. Until then, thank you for being part of this storytelling family. See you in the next chapter. She signed a contract to be his fake girlfriend, but fell for him instead. The night was colder than usual in New York City, with the skyline glowing like a million tiny stars reflecting off the glass towers. Rachel Carter, a 30-year-old marketing assistant, sat in the corner of a dimly lit rooftop lounge, stirring her drink absent-mindedly. She wasn't supposed to be here, not at a place filled with billionaires, high-profile executives, and socialites sipping on overpriced cocktails. But tonight was different. Across the table sat Lucas Bennett, a 38-year-old CEO known for his ruthless business tactics, icy demeanor, and an empire that stretched across the country. His tailored black suit and piercing gaze made him impossible to ignore, but Rachel wasn't intimidated. At least, she tried not to be. He leaned forward, his fingers tapping rhythmically against the table. "Let's make a deal." Rachel blinked. "A deal?" Lucas's voice was calm but firm. "I need a girlfriend. Not a real one. Just an arrangement." She almost laughed, thinking it was some sort of joke. But the way he looked at her, intensely, calculated, almost as if he had already planned every outcome, made her realize he was dead serious. "I don't understand," she said cautiously. "Why me?" Lucas exhaled, sitting back in his chair. "Because you don't belong to my world. You're not after money, status, or power. That makes you perfect. I need someone who isn't trying to manipulate me." Rachel scoffed. "And what do I get out of this?" $100,000. Her heart stopped. "That's insane," she whispered, gripping her glass tighter. "Why would you pay someone that much to pretend to be your girlfriend?" Lucas's jaw tightened. "My family is forcing me into an arranged marriage. If I don't find someone on my own terms, they will control my life, and I don't let anyone control me." Rachel wasn't naive. She had heard of the Bennett family dynasty, generations of power, wealth, and influence. She also knew that when people like Lucas wanted something, they usually got it. "I don't know," she hesitated. "I'm not really the kind of woman you'd be seen with." Lucas smirked. "Exactly. That's why they'll believe it." Rachel should have walked away. Should have said no. But $100,000 wasn't just money, it was a way to help her struggling mother, pay off her debts, and finally have a fresh start. So, despite every warning in her head, she took a deep breath and nodded. "All right," she said, her voice steady. "I'll do it." Lucas extended his hand. "Then we have a deal." As Rachel shook his hand, she felt a chill, not from the cold air, but from something far more dangerous. She had just entered a world she didn't belong to. And whether she liked it or not, she was about to play a role that could change everything. The deal was simple: pretend to be Lucas Bennett's girlfriend, attend a few high-profile events, and walk away with a life-changing sum of money. Rachel Carter told herself it was just business. Nothing more. But standing in the grand ballroom of a Manhattan luxury hotel, wearing a designer gown she could never afford, Rachel felt like she had stepped into another world. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling, golden lights cast a soft glow over the elite guests, and the air smelled of expensive champagne and power. Lucas stood beside her, perfectly composed in his custom tuxedo, his presence commanding attention. She wasn't sure if he was aware of how many eyes were on them, how many people whispered, trying to figure out who she was and why the cold, unattainable CEO had suddenly brought a woman into his life. And then, there was Victoria Hayes. She was stunning. Tall, elegant, and exuding confidence, dressed in a fitted silk gown that screamed old money. Rachel didn't need an introduction. Victoria's sharp gaze made it clear that she was the ex-fiancé Lucas was supposed to marry. You must be Rachel, Victoria said smoothly, her smile tight. It's interesting to finally meet you. Rachel forced a polite smile. Likewise. Lucas, standing between them, kept his expression unreadable. Victoria. Victoria's eyes flicked between them, something calculating behind them. You don't have to pretend with me, Lucas, she said, her voice low but taunting. I know you better than anyone here. This little show, it's not real, is it? Rachel's stomach twisted. Lucas's jaw tensed, but before he could respond, Victoria let out a soft laugh. I'll make this easy, she continued, swirling the champagne in her glass. Prove it. Rachel blinked. What? Victoria's lips curled into a smirk. Prove that this isn't a contract, a game, a strategy. Kiss her. Right here. Right now. The air between them shifted. Conversations around the ballroom continued, oblivious to the tension crackling between the three of them. Rachel's heart pounded. She looked up at Lucas, waiting, praying he would shut this down, make some excuse, end this ridiculous test. But he didn't. Instead, he turned to her, his gaze steady. And before she could process what was happening, Lucas cupped her face and leaned in. The moment his lips touched hers, the world faded. It wasn't soft or hesitant, it was firm, deliberate, and something else entirely. A statement. A declaration. Rachel should have reminded herself that this was all part of the act, but the second his hands tightened around her waist, pulling her closer, her mind went blank. When he finally pulled away, the room felt too hot, too loud, too much. Victoria looked amused. Impressive, she murmured, before turning and walking away. Rachel barely heard her. Her breath was unsteady, her lips tingling from the intensity of what had just happened. Because for the first time since this entire charade began, she wasn't sure if it was an act anymore. Rachel Carter had convinced herself that this was just a business deal. A few events, a paycheck, and then she'd walk away. But after that kiss at the gala, nothing felt the same. The moment Lucas pulled away, something inside her shifted. She saw it in his eyes too, a flicker of something he wasn't ready to admit. The room had faded away, the sound of murmured conversations drowned by the pounding in her chest. But as quickly as it happened, reality crashed back. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. Over the next few weeks, Lucas didn't mention the kiss, didn't address the tension that now existed between them. But Rachel felt it in the way he looked at her, the way his touch lingered just a second longer than necessary. She should have been relieved when he kept things professional. Instead, it frustrated her. One evening, Lucas invited her to his penthouse for a formal dinner with potential investors. It was another role to play, another night of pretending. But as Rachel walked into his sleek, modern home, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, leather furniture that screamed wealth, she couldn't ignore the feeling that this was more than just an arrangement. Lucas was different tonight. More relaxed. Less guarded. She caught him watching her as she laughed at one of the investors' jokes, his expression unreadable. And later, when he walked her to the door, the space between them felt too small. Did I do well enough for your investors? She teased, trying to lighten the mood. Lucas exhaled sharply, shaking his head. You don't have to keep proving yourself, Rachel. You're more than enough. Her breath caught. For a man who built his life around strategy and control, those words felt too real. But just as quickly as the moment came, it was shattered. The next morning, Victoria Hayes walked into Lucas's office. Rachel hadn't meant to overhear their conversation. She had just stepped in to drop off some paperwork. But Victoria's voice, smooth, calculated, froze her in place. You think she's different? Victoria scoffed. Come on, Lucas. She's not special. She's just another woman getting caught up in your world. And when this arrangement ends, she'll walk away. Just like they all do. Rachel's stomach twisted. Lucas didn't deny it. He didn't correct Victoria. He just sat there in silence. and that silence was louder than any answer. Rachel turned and left before she could hear more, but the damage was done. She had let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe Lucas saw her as more than a contract. That maybe, just maybe, the lines had blurred for him too. But now? Now she wasn't sure if she was just playing a role, or if she had been playing herself all along. Rachel Carter had made up her mind. She was done pretending. After overhearing Victoria's cruel words, and Lucas's silence, something inside her broke. She had let herself believe, just for a moment, that this arrangement had turned into something real. But now, it was clear, she was nothing more than a temporary convenience. A woman Lucas could walk away from when the contract ended. And so, she did what she should have done weeks ago. She packed her bags. The night air in New York felt colder than usual as she stood in her small apartment, stuffing clothes into a suitcase. She told herself she was fine. That she didn't care. That this was just a business deal, one that had run its course. So why did it hurt? Her phone buzzed. Lucas. She ignored it. Then a knock at the door. Firm. Insistent. Rachel froze. Her fingers gripped the zipper of her suitcase. She already knew who it was before she opened the door. Lucas stood there, still in his work suit, but something was different. The usual calm, composed CEO was gone. His blue eyes burned with something raw. You weren't even going to say goodbye? His voice was tight, controlled, but there was something underneath, something close to desperation. Rachel crossed her arms, forcing herself to look at him. What's the point? We both knew this was going to end. Lucas took a step inside, closing the door behind him. Is that what you think? She let out a bitter laugh. That's what I know. She turned away, trying to hide the way her voice shook. This was never real, Lucas. I was just another piece in your game. Another name on your list of arrangements. Silence. Then, softly, you're wrong. Rachel turned back, eyes narrowing. Am I? Then why didn't you deny it? Why didn't you tell Victoria she was wrong? Lucas exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. He looked like a man at war with himself. Because I was scared. Rachel blinked. Scared? His jaw tightened. I never planned for this to happen. I never planned to. He stopped himself, shaking his head as if frustrated by his own words. But then you walked into my life, and everything changed. You changed me. Her heart pounded. Lucas, I don't want this to end, he said, stepping closer. I don't care about contracts. I don't care about what I was supposed to do. The truth is, I don't want to let you go. The weight of his words crashed into her. This wasn't an arrangement anymore. It wasn't a deal. It was real. And for the first time since this all began, Rachel had a choice. She could walk away. Or she could take the risk. But one thing was certain. Lucas Bennett wasn't just fighting for a contract anymore. He was fighting for her. Rachel Carter stood in the doorway, staring at Lucas Bennett as his words echoed in her mind. I don't want to let you go. For weeks, she had told herself that this arrangement was just business. That the stolen glances, the lingering touches, and the way he looked at her when he thought she wasn't watching, none of it meant anything. But now, standing face to face with the most powerful man she'd ever known, she saw something she never expected. Fear. Not fear of failure, or of losing control. Lucas Bennett was terrified of losing her. She swallowed hard, her heart hammering in her chest. Lucas, this isn't how it works. People like you don't just change overnight. His jaw tensed, but his eyes never left hers. You think this is a game to me? That I can just replace you like some business transaction? He stepped closer, his voice rough with emotion. I don't care about my family's expectations. I don't care what anyone thinks. I care about you. Rachel wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But doubt still clung to her, whispering in the back of her mind. She shook her head. What happens when you realize I'm not like them? That I don't belong in your world? Lucas exhaled sharply, then did something that stunned her. He reached for her hands, lacing his fingers through hers. It was the softest she had ever seen him. You were never supposed to belong to that world, Rachel. That's why I need you in mine. Her breath caught. This wasn't the same man who had offered her a contract weeks ago. This wasn't the cold, calculated CEO who thought of everything as a negotiation. This was Lucas, stripped of all the walls he had spent years building. And that's when she realized, she did love him. She had tried to fight it, to tell herself that this wasn't real, that he would go back to his old ways. But Lucas Bennett had fallen for her, and no matter how hard she tried, she had fallen for him too. The decision hit her before she even had time to question it. Rachel let out a shaky breath and squeezed his hands. Okay. Lucas frowned slightly, his grip tightening. Okay? She smiled, small but genuine. Okay. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time since she had met him, Lucas looked relieved. He pulled her into his arms, holding her as if letting go would shatter him completely. And in that moment, Rachel knew, this wasn't a contract anymore. This was love. 1 year later. The New York skyline stretched before them, but Rachel barely noticed. She stood on the balcony of their penthouse, staring at the wedding ring on her finger. Lucas stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Still thinking about running, he teased. She laughed, leaning into him. Not a chance. Because in the end, love wasn't about contracts, it was about choices. And every day, she would choose him. What a journey! From a business deal to an unexpected love story, Rachel and Lucas's path was anything but ordinary. But now, we want to hear from you. What part of their story moved you the most? Was it the moment Rachel realized she wasn't just a contract? Or when Lucas finally let go of his pride and fought for her? Drop your favorite moment in the comments below, we love reading your thoughts. Also, tell us where you're watching from. Whether you're in a small town or a big city, your presence here makes our storytelling community even more special. Do you believe in second chances in love? Have you ever been in a situation where feelings blurred the lines of reality? This story may be fiction, but emotions like love, doubt, and trust are very real, and we know many of you have stories to share. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Tomorrow, we bring you another heartfelt story, one you won't want to miss. Until then, thank you for being part of our journey. See you in the next chapter.